Talk Live here on IG and YouTube. Oh wow. Hold on. Welcome back to Talk Live, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that on YouTube. I'm just gonna go back to the full cam. I'm just readjusting cameras and such. Give me 1 second. There we go. And I am moving on here on Talk Live. Bang, bang, bang. And the live feed. Here we go. All right, we're back on Talk Live, ladies and gentlemen. Live on IG and YouTube. All right. And we're going to do the live here, and we're going to do the live there, and we're going to do it right here, and we're going to get it. Okay, 2, 1. Yes, we are back live on Talk Live on IG, and now, on IG now, and on YouTube. A minute after our YouTube feed, but nonetheless, we haven't started the show yet, so thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live on IG and YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Watching a close game in the background, it is the Nuggets v. the Oklahoma City Thunder. And again, it's a very close game. I think it's 61-58 at halftime, and we're just waiting for a second half here, so I'm just looking in the background. But we're going to get a little quick recap, as it is a bit slow regarding the red pill and entertainment tonight. So we're just going to go on with the Diddy trial, as it's being the center of the universe pretty much everywhere. So we're going to get a little recap of the day's proceedings. If you remember what happened yesterday, Cassie continued with her examination in chief after Israel Flores and Daniel Phillip all testified already for the prosecution. So now we moved on to the star witness, that is Cassie. She's had 2 days of testimony, and she was just finishing up that testimony today, and then she was getting in to be cross-examined by the defense. So that's where we're at right now. So we're gonna head to the browser, and we're gonna head to a news source today. There we go, and that is Law and Crime. As TMZ didn't upload their thing quick enough today. Oh, I did not ask for that, did I? No, I did not. There we are. There we go, and we're back. So we got Law and Crime sidebar here tonight. Shout out to Law and Crime doing wonderful things to YouTube streets. 6.96, bordering on 7 million subscribers. Excellent work there by Law and Crime. Do subscribe to Law and Crime doing wonderful things to YouTube streets. They're going to offer the recap of today's proceedings in New York regarding the Diddy trial and the cross-examination of Cassie Ventura. So let's get into it right now. Thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live.
Day 4 of Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking and racketeering trial got intense in a hurry as Diddy's ex-girlfriend Cassandra Ventura faced a blistering cross-examination with defense lawyers using old love texts and steamy messages to challenge her claims of horrifying abuse, from freak-offs to jealousy to burner phones. It all came out in court today, and I'm going to be speaking with our very own Elizabeth Milner to get the inside scoop, including a major witness who's set to take the stand next. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. The fourth day of testimony in Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking and racketeering trial turned explosive as his former girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, faced quite aggressive cross-examination about her tumultuous 11-year relationship with Combs. The defense pushed back hard on Ventura's allegations that she was coerced and abused by the fallen mogul, showing jurors old text messages and emails where the two appeared to exchange loving words, even some pretty explicit plans for their so-called freak-offs. Raises the question of consent or not. So to give us that up-close and personal account of every single gripping moment that happened inside that courtroom, we're going to bring back on Law and Crimes reporter Elizabeth Milner, who is in that courtroom once again. Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on. So set the scene for us. What was the atmosphere in that courtroom like today? Was it tense when we're talking about cross-examination? Did it feel different than direct examination?
So do remember, guys, the cross-examination is happening now of Cassie. So again, this is where, indeed, the Diddy's lawyers can poke holes in the stories of Cassie Ventura and her testimony as of now. She's finished with her testimony with regards to her examination in chief. And so again, now is the time for the defense to try and win back some points with regards to Diddy's innocence or guilt. All right, let's get into this.
Yeah, for the most part, this was a day that a lot of us were anticipating. A lot of us were wondering, what is the defense going to have when it comes to this cross-examination? You know, the last couple of days while Cassie's been under direct examination, to me at least, just kind of watching her tone, watching how she answers these questions, she really kind of seemed very compelling. She felt like a compelling witness. So obviously, the defense's job is going to be to poke holes in this. Did you want to participate in these freak-offs? Did you have a way of helping set these up? Did you initiate wanting these freak-offs in some instances when Diddy was sick, or other instances as well, too? And so today was definitely a very highly anticipated day. As far as the tone just in the courtroom, I think a lot of people were just kind of wanting to know what was going to happen next. So as far as just who was inside that courtroom today, it looked a little different than it has, on day one and even a little bit into day two, in that, we had Karen Agnifilo inside that courtroom today. She is obviously married to Mark Agnifilo. You had Diddy's mother, Janice Combs, in the courtroom. His sons, Christian Combs, Quincy Brown, Justin Combs, all came into the courtroom today. Notably, the daughters, again, not inside that courtroom today. Chance's mother, who's been inside that courtroom, also wasn't there today. Neither was Justin's mother inside that courtroom. So it was a little different than we've seen, on prior days, especially for opening statements, as well as even into day two. As far as those who were there to support Cassie, it was still the same as it has been the other couple of days she's been testifying. Her husband, Alex Fine, was inside that courtroom. Cassie's brother was inside that courtroom, as well as Cassie's mother and her attorney, Doug Wigder. As far as even when Cassie came into the courtroom today, you would think that maybe she would appear nervous or just a little shaken, depending on, what to expect really from what the cross-examination would look like, but she appeared very cool, calm, and collected, just similar to how she has been on the stand these last couple of days. She just walked up to the witness stand. The judge reaffirmed that she is still under oath, and so she just sat there, and even when Ana Maria Esteveo was asking her question, she, for the most part, appeared cool, calm, and collective. Her tone was still the same, even during, as far as comparing it to her direct testimony, where, she was very soft-spoken. There were times, she wasn't saying yes or anything like that. Instead, she was saying yep or mm-hmm. And she just appeared, again, very soft-spoken. She appeared that she didn't seem nervous, at least from what I could see of her. Of course, there were some moments where you could kind of feel that she was uncomfortable, especially when it came to these graphic text messages that were being displayed, but she didn't feel comfortable necessarily reading them out loud. And it makes a lot of sense, right? This was, it appeared that these were private messages between people who were dating, people who were together for a years-long period. But just keep in mind, even to now, she is married to somebody else. And, her husband was in that courtroom. And so I could tell that there was a little uncomfy moments when it came to especially some of those graphic tests, or those graphic text messages that were being displayed in court today. But as far as the tone goes, just overall, it appeared just kind of like another day in court. I'm assuming that, Cassie kind of knew what to expect as far as where the defense would go, what type of questions that they would ask her, knowing that they would try to poke holes into her credibility. But again, she appeared cool, calm, and collected while on the stand. No emotional moments or anything like that. No points where she appeared visibly agitated or angry. Just, for the most part, asking clarifying questions. Can you repeat that? Can you ask it a different way? Can you talk about what time frame this was? Oh, I don't remember these text messages. And so that was kind of most of the tone throughout most of the cross-examination today.
Hey, everybody, this is a
So again, ladies and gentlemen, what you're finding out right now is that, Cassie wasn't rocked by any of the questioning. She seemed to be quite focused on making sure that the questions were answered in a very monotone and straightforward and unemotional way. She proved to be a very good witness for the prosecution thus far in terms of the cross-examination. She was composed. She was focused, and she I think knew of the directive that she needed to have when she was on the stand, and at the end of the day, she followed it to a T. And so we, she has to be commended for her demeanor during her testimony thus far. But again, let's see if there are any holes that can be picked through from her examination in chief by the defense through their questioning, especially with her text messages. Let's see what we got here.
How she responded to the cross-examination today. As far as Diddy goes, Diddy, just like every other day, is very much participating in his defense, very much so passing off notes to his defense attorneys to kind of hand over to Estevao, who was standing up doing the questioning. He very much so was intently looking at either Cassie or the exhibits in front of him, especially when it came to those sexually explicit text messages, or even just the text messages and the emails back and forth with one another. And so just like every other day, Diddy is very much so participating in his defense, because as the defense has pointed out a number of times, that Cassie is a very critical witness to the case. Mark Agnifilo said she is probably the most key witness in this case, somebody that, they wanted to make sure that they were doing a thorough cross-examination of her, because Diddy's life somewhat depends on this, because, they were making the point that he's facing a life sentence if he's convicted. And so they wanted to make sure that they were asking every single question that they needed to ask. Do I think that was necessarily accomplished? I'm sure we'll get to that in just a second. But for the most part, as far as Diddy goes today, he was definitely participating like usual.
Yeah, and look.
Good question. Good point raised there by the law and crime crew there. It's this again. Cassie is the key witness. Cassie is the was the prosecution's number one witness here, and she could be sending Diddy to jail for a number of years, if not for life. So they had to make sure that that she was thoroughly cross-examined, asking every question possible, trying to poke holes in all of her stories so that Diddy can get his proper day in court. So again, I expect this cross-examination to last a few days in and of itself. They want to make sure that all of the evidence is put out there, and good on the defense for doing that. But again, it's from all intents and purposes, it's going to be pretty difficult to put Cassie off from her story. But again, I think the defense has a few tricks up their sleeve in order to do that. Let's continue.
She is the number one witness. What do I mean by that? She's the star witness. She starts at the start of this trial. I believe this case rises and falls with her testimony. She is making up a number of the counts that he's facing right now: racketeering, sex trafficking. Her testimony would help support those, and also help support transportation to engage in prostitution. The prosecution needs her to testify, which is why I believe one of the reasons they want her to testify so early is because she's 9 months pregnant. They got to make sure she gets on the stand before something happens. Now, you mentioned the text messages. This day was filled with text messages. Elizabeth, I'm going to ask you what we learned about these text messages. I'll leave it to you how graphic you want to get about them, depending upon what the value is. But what were the text messages? What were the value of the text messages? What was the defense doing with these text messages? And by the way, emails too. So communications between Combs and Ventura. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, it was a lot of messages today, a lot of things that were read inside that courtroom. First, starting off with messages first with Ana Maria Estevao asking Cassie, so you love Diddy? She said yes. And he loved you? She said yes. You called him Sean. You knew the real Sean. And Cassie said, can you repeat? And then along the lines answered the question that, she knew the Sean that other people didn't see. When they started getting into the email correspondence and text correspondence, they went all the way back to 2008. One email that said, I'm a very lucky woman, and I'm going to kind of paraphrase this email because it was a lot going on. Cassie said, I'm a very lucky woman. I miss you, and I'd fly wherever you needed me to. I love you. And then she signed it off Cass. They showed a 2009 email that Diddy had written to Cassie, and this was the baby girl and the pop email correspondent and nicknames that they had for one another. Diddy said, I love you so much, it makes me cry. And then Cassie responded, you hungry, pop, you know. And so I think what the defense was trying to do, at least with these initial messages, is just kind of show that there was love and there was affection there. But just think about these time frames and these dates. This was around the time that the two had first started dating, and I felt like it kind of played into what she had said under her direct testimony, that she did care about Diddy, that she did love him. She's been very honest about that, that the two were, that she felt like the two were in love, especially at the beginning of her relationship. There was one message from 2010. Cassie wrote, going to sleep so tomorrow will be faster, and kind of saying tomorrow will be faster so I can see you soon. Diddy responded, I love you so much. I never knew it could be like this. Cassie responded, I'm so happy. We're so in love. There was another message, this one from the year prior. Cassie saying, I love you so much. It made me feel like I can't wait until we just don't care anymore. And Cassie was pretty much saying that this was because she wanted to be open about the relationship, because the defense was trying to point out that Cassie and Diddy, for about a 2-year period, they weren't as open with their relationship, and that Cassie essentially just wanted to be public. Again, something that kind of corroborated her under direct testimony, where she said that she just, was in love with him and just wanted to be with him at all points, all the time. A lot of just I love you back and forth, again, just kind of trying to establish that these two were in love, that it wasn't forced or fraud or coerced or anything like that. Then we get to
and that's important, ladies and gentlemen, before we go on there. That's very important in the sense that Diddy is being painted as a monster. Diddy's been painted as a Svengali. Diddy's been painted as a man who was totally barbarous and nasty with Cassie throughout their relationship. But no, they, as was stated in their examination and here as well through the text messages, they had a loving relationship for a good few years. Again, with the nicknames that were passed to and fro, with the text messages that were looks like exhaustive. It was something that these two carried on a real relationship, partly in secret, and then it came out in public a few years later because of the age difference, of course. Diddy being in his, I would say his late, his early 40s, and Cassie being, I would say, in her teens. So again, it was to be seen as taboo at the time, but again, they were in love at the time, and she was a grown woman. So again, and she already testified to the fact that they were in love at the time, and no matter what the age difference was and what people would have said, it was a I think that's how they called a May to December romance, and so. It was fine. It was, they were two consenting adults, though she was a very young adult, but she was still an adult at the time. And Diddy was, again, nearing, he was in his 40s at the time. So again, it was a period where they were very, very much in love. And I think she confessed to that fact. We have a comment here by Lana BK. The happy-go-lucky relationship is love bombing 101. Well, okay. Well, she considered what Diddy did there love bombing. But again, Cassie said herself she was a full participant in the relationship. She wanted the world to know of their relationship. So, and it was between two consenting adults. So she was a full participant within the relationship, despite the love bombing accusation there by Lana BK. But again, Cassie was fully confessing of the fact that indeed they had a relationship, and she wanted to let the world know. Let's continue.
message around August 5th of 2009, Diddy asked, when do you want to freak off? Cassie said, I'm ready to freak off, LOL. Diddy responded, you tell me the date, you choose. And then I'm paraphrasing right here. She had responded, I feel like a Friday would be best. Diddy responded, also paraphrasing here, Friday it is. Maybe we can get Jules here. Jules was an escort that they had used very often in their freak-offs, according to her testimony. He was brought up a number of times, and notably, he was the escort that was inside that hotel room during the 2016 Intercontinental Hotel incident. There were other messages that went into, Diddy had a subject line that said, what are you thinking about? And then Cassie responded in a very kind of sexually explicit way that I'm not going to repeat on air. You could definitely feel like I was kind of peeking into what their history was like, especially in those intimate moments, and how the two would correspond about wanting to be with each other in an intimate way. And so a lot of those messages were displayed in front of the jury. The jury saw them. Us in the gallery, we saw these messages as well too. There was a 2009 email that,
before getting to the 2009 email, that is something that could poke a hole in Cassie's testimony, is the fact that she was a full and ready and eager participant in the freak-offs to begin with. She chose she was part of the choosing process for the men being involved. She was, as was seen by the text messages, she was, as they said, ready to go. She really wanted to be a participant in these freak-offs, which goes against her testimony in the sense that she disliked the freak-offs from the beginning. So this is a slight hole poked in the examination in chief of Cassie Ventura, in the sense that, right, Cassie saying that I was coerced. I was forced to perform sex acts. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do these things. When these text messages say different, they say that indeed she really requested, and she was an avid and eager participant in these freak-offs. And as she said, she was ready to freak off, as she said. But so again, this is something that the defense wanted to show that Cassie wasn't exactly a babe in the woods in these things, in this participation. Rumors allegedly said that Cassie was a full participant in all these things, and she had these certain predilections that she wanted to carry out through these freak-offs. But again, her pregnancy may soften the blow of those things a bit. But again, the text messages brought those alleged facts back to life. Let's continue.
Diddy had wrote to Cassie saying, I want you to feel safe to let go. And Cassie wrote, I like that. I want to give you the same. In order to be more open with the things that we do in bed, I need to feel safe like home, like this is my husband, and this is the only man that will ever have this aggressive / sexual side of me. I'm nervous. I'm just the girlfriend that you get your fantasies off with, and that I just don't get that other part. And then she wrote ... anymore, at least. And she kind of at least to me, in my perspective, appeared a little apprehensive about doing these freak-offs. She was asked by the defense, do you have a fear that you guys wouldn't go public, you guys being Cassie and Diddy? And she said, I guess she thought about this. Again, this is around that 2009 time frame when the two were still kind of under wraps there. But she said that the freak-offs were kind of an integral part of her relationship, and that essentially she just wanted more. There was a part where they had talked about her 21st birthday. Her 21st birthday is pretty important because that was the first time the two had kissed. That's the first time that she had kissed Diddy, because remember, she had met him 2 years prior to that time. She said that this was again at her birthday. Big names, like a name that we had seen in the People and Places list from jury selection. Dallas Austin was at her that birthday party. Britney Spears was at that birthday party, and they were all brought by Diddy. She was asked about her financial situation around that time, and she said essentially she was doing well. She was, modeling. She was doing other things. And then they kind of touched base a little bit about about her prior relationship even before Diddy, and that was with a producer named Ryan Leslie. And around this time frame, because Cassie was still in a relationship with Ryan, at this time, the defense was trying to paint it as, when you had met Ryan, he was 10 years older than you at this point of time. And I had kind of looked it up. Diddy and Ryan Leslie aren't necessarily close in age. I think Ryan Leslie's still in his mid-40s, whereas Diddy's in his mid-50s. So there's a little bit there, but I could kind of see where the defense was trying to go and trying to paint it as that you kind of get with older producers, with older men that could possibly kind of help you with your career. Then we saw an email from.
Just before we get to that email, yes, it's showing that. Well, again, it's a minor point of the cross examination, but again, that Cassie indeed was into older men. She had dated Ryan Leslie before. She had dated Diddy, and now she's with Alex Fine, who's a bit older himself. So she's into older men. But again, I don't think that has any effect on bringing down poking hole in the case of Ms. Cassie Ventura. Let's continue. Oh, we have a comment here, just quickly. We have a comment here from Lana BK. Just give me a second to do that. She said that Cassie isn't sending Diddy to jail. Diddy's actions are. Yes, indeed. That is true. Yes. Well, Diddy's actions are indeed sending him to jail. But what the defense wants to show is that that Cassie was indeed a sort of a co-conspirator to this, sort of a active participant in these freak-offs. She wasn't exactly a babe in the woods in these activities. So
2007, where Cassie had wrote, we really had 1 week of each other just together, and I can say it's been the best and the worst. The defense asked her about her relationship with Diddy. Has it always been complicated? And she kind of affirmed that a little bit. She said she thought Diddy at first was actually more interested in her friend Carrie Morgan, somebody that's been brought up a number of times during the testimony. And so as far as a lot of these messages, part of it, when I was sitting inside the gallery today, I was kind of like, where is this going? They were just reading text after text after text. It was bunches of pages, to the point I think the judge was kind of like, why are we, we need to find like a better system of getting Cassie to read these messages so that way there's not a holdup, because it was just so much messages, to the point where sometimes you were trying to connect the dots and wondering what's happening. And so the presentation was a little messy on my end, at least from what I could see, that I was just kind of like, where is this going? And there were just so many points that I felt like they could talk about instead of these messages, but it seemed like they wanted to get in front of these messages, provide context that Cassie was actually in love, that at times that she had set up these freak-offs even on her own, at times when even Diddy was sick. And so these messages were just all over the place, and at points I was just kind of like, where is this going? Because it really was so much. So I don't know how the jury felt listening to all of these today too.
Well, I'll tell you, it seemed to me they were really trying to home in on the idea that she was a willing participant in the freak-offs, and that the jury, are you really going to believe that she was essentially held captive against her will, didn't want to do any of this for years because she was under threat or coercion of Sean Combs, and highlighting messages like, I'm always ready to freak off, LOL, or baby, I want to FO so bad. That's going to help their narrative, and saying she was the one who tried to set these up, or I believe there was testimony she heated up the baby oil to be used in freak-offs. But there's a part of something that you said that I think
and I just said that on Talk Live right here, is the fact that they're trying to make Cassie into a co-conspirator, into a active participant, into a person who would stage her own freak-offs herself, and that Diddy wasn't this demonic individual who was the executive producer, director, and benefactor, the financier of these freak-offs themselves. So again, it was again Cassie. They're trying to show that Cassie had to take ownership as well, for the fact that she was indeed a person who was a full and and valid and avid participant in these freak-offs. But I'll let to get into what Mr. Weber had said here. Let's continue.
I thought was really interesting, where it seems to me the defense was also trying to portray her as a jealous lover, right? And go to her motivations about why she would be going after Diddy now. Talk to us about what we learned today from the cross-examination about how they tried to portray her, maybe with other interests that she had, other relationships Diddy had. How did they try to portray her as somebody who was jealous and maybe had other motives for coming after, accusing Diddy now?
Well, they definitely brought up Kim Porter a couple of times today. Kim Porter is a big name because she is the mother of a few of Diddy's children, including the twins, including Christian. And so Cassie had said that she had learned that Diddy had actually left a freak off to go see Kim Porter. Again, by this time, she was still the mother of his children. She admitted to being a little bit jealous of Diddy's relationship with Kim. And she said especially this kind of happened during the holiday time, because Diddy always spent the holidays with Kim Porter, with his children, something that, surprisingly, Cassie kind of mentioned that Diddy and Cassie didn't spend much time together with his children. Instead, the children were always with Kim Porter, and this was something that she was a little bit jealous of, that she wanted to be around him and see she wanted to be around him, be around his family and get all parts of him. And so, she did admit that she was a little jealous. We learned about Gina today. Gina is another central figure a little bit, and I've done a couple segments about Gina because Gina had previously gone on a podcast and spoken with a blogger talking about how her relationship with Diddy was, where she had alleged that Diddy was physically abusive with Gina. She had alleged that Diddy would refer to Cassie as the good one and Gina was the bad one. So for hearing from Cassie's perspective about the whole Gina situation, Gina was somebody that Gina was somebody that Diddy had seen while he was still with Cassie, somebody that was a focal point of, from her perspective, of the jealousy. And so Cassie had learned that Diddy was seeing Gina. Cassie learned about this because of social media. And she said that Diddy initially denied seeing Gina, but learned that he was still seeing her during a point where she had told him to stop seeing her. And she called Gina actually a main problem in their relationship. And so this was around the 2013 time frame where Cassie said to Diddy, "You make me feel like a side piece. I'm happy with you no matter what," because Cassie thought she was the main girlfriend. She thought she was the only girlfriend. She didn't realize that he was seeing other people. She said that, not even surprisingly, she said that he had actually lost his temper when Diddy thought Cassie was cheating, but then when Cassie confronted Diddy about his cheating, it was like, deny, deny, deny. Another point of contention between their relationship was that, the two were on and off for an 11-year period. Cassie says that Diddy learned that she was seeing other people, and she said that it would get scary if he would find out these situations and then enter and segue into Kid Cudi. Surprisingly, they didn't talk about the car arson at all today through it, but it was essentially to kind of talk about how Diddy was just so hurt and just so devastated by the fact that Cassie was seeing Kid Cudi behind his back.
Yeah, this is a big. If you don't know about this segment of the love of the affair, well, I wouldn't say affair, of the relationship between Diddy and Cassie, this is one of the more controversial points in their relationship when Cassie was had an affair with Kid Cudi, and when Diddy got wind of that affair, Diddy he didn't exactly like it. I think he took extreme opprobrium and offense to it, to a point where it's alleged that Diddy threatened Kid Cudi's life and blew up his car. Look it up. He went into overdrive. Diddy did, allegedly, with regards to his distaste and hatred for this affair. And I think Diddy wanted to send out a message to anyone else, including Cassie herself, that if you try my patience, or if you see someone behind my back, there will be serious consequences for it. Do look up for yourself this this affair between Cassie and Kid Cudi. Is pretty remarkable stuff, to be fair. Let's continue.
Vince was trying to point out that Diddy was the one who actually introduced Cassie and Kid Cudi to one another, because he was trying to get them in the studio together to pretty much kind of advanced her career. And this was around the 2011 time frame. Diddy found out about Cassie and Kid Cudi, and she had said yesterday under direct examination that he had found out while they were in a freak off. Cassie says it was actually her idea to use a burner phone because she didn't want Diddy to find out, again alluding to the fact that she was a little terrified and scared of what he could do, how he would respond. And she said that she began her relationship with Kid Cudi at a point where she and Diddy were actually off. They were on a break, but she began a relationship with Kid Cudi because the two were just enjoying each other's company. She said that she did admit that she was still doing freak offs during this off period with Diddy, but then she would kind of go and hang out with Kid Cudi. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, she and Diddy are still on a break, and she again said that it was scary if he had found out. She was asked if Diddy knew that Cassie and Diddy were on a break, and she said that I don't know. And then that's when the cross got a little awkward, because they were trying to kind of figure out a way to kind of ask these questions. And I had mentioned this during the lunch hour today, that it was just a little weird to kind of see this cross-examination around this point, because Estevao was essentially just kind of adding or concurring with Tenny Garagos, who was sitting at the defense table. I think a lot of us were kind of questioning why Estevao was the one doing the line of questioning. You know, we understand obviously that the defense was going to use a female to ask Cassie these questions under cross, but I was just kind of like, why is she conferring so much? It seemed like she didn't know what to ask next, and so that was an interesting point that I had seen while in the courtroom today. As far as just the Kid Cudi relationship goes, you know, I had mentioned this just yesterday, that when Diddy had found out, he got a bottle or a wine bottle opener, put it in between her finger, it's in between his fingers, and lunged at her. But Cassie said that he had made no contact when he had lunged at her with the bottle opener. She said her relationship with Kid Cudi the entire time was just about a month, and she got back together with Diddy. She was asked, was the relationship offensive to Diddy because of Kid Cudi's stature in the music industry? And Cassie was kind of like, well, yeah, because Diddy wasn't cheating with other celebrities. And Cassie responded, I don't really know. The Kid Cudi relationship hurt Diddy, according to the defense, because Diddy was the one who introduced them, put them in the studio together. And so the defense was saying that Diddy brought up Kid Cudi a lot after they got back together, and he especially would become angry over the holidays, recalling the Kid Cudi relationship, because this was around the Christmas time frame of 2011. Cassie had mentioned by New Year's the two being Kid Cudi and Cassie were already broken up. Diddy accused Cassie of having another relationship with another man while shooting a movie, and that movie was Honey 3, and this was in South Africa. I bring back the people and places list that was talked about during jury selection. Why? Because this was when Michael B. Jordan was named, and Diddy was apparently a little annoyed by the relationship that Cassie and Michael B. Jordan were having together while they were shooting this movie. And Cassie had even said around this time that she and Diddy weren't even together when she went off to shot the movie. She broke things off. Why? Because she had seen a picture that he was still with Gina. She was sent a video about that while Diddy and Gina were seen at Revolt Fest together, because somebody thought that that was actually Cassie. And so Cassie had sent kind of a nasty message to Diddy's entire staff that she thought were family, staff that she had thought had her back. But then when seeing these pictures, knowing that this was a point of contention in their relationship, she said she got upset about it because she thought the staff was her family and thought they were kind of in on this. And so those were a lot of the focus of just the other people who kind of played a role into just the tension that was displayed in the relationship between Cassie and Diddy.
And
so again, guys, I mean, this was a very dysfunctional relationship. After I would say 2010, during the the golden period, the all enduring love period where again Diddy would cheat and then Cassie would cheat and then they would go on a break and cheat in the process, but Diddy would get jealous of the cheating and then they would get back together and then Diddy would cheat again and then Cassie would cheat again. So again, it's showing that but all the while they still participated in freak-offs. So I don't know how this helps the defense in any way, shape, or form. Maybe it shows Cassie's infidelity, that she isn't a babe in the woods, as they say. But again, are the defense winning any points with this? I don't think they are necessarily. I think it's it's just showing that Cassie was a jilted and upset lover, and so was Diddy at times when Cassie had an affairs with Kid Cudi and Michael B. Jordan. Quite a serious hit list on the part of Cassie, to be fair and frank. So for her to end up with Alex Fine, well, again. Anyways, but again, it shows that there was everything was not well during the 2010-2011 period. But again, are the defense winning points here? I don't think they are. I think they're just trying to outline the relationship here. But again, they're losing valuable time with this sort of cross-examination. Let's continue.
They questioned, it seemed to me, a lot of her motivations. They brought up the November 2023 lawsuit to suggest you knew this was going to ruin his career, right? Now, there was a large section of the testimony regarding drug use, and I couldn't tell if it was to suggest that, hey, Combs isn't responsible for your drug use. You know, one of the things he's charged with, right, is alleged he used drugs to make victims more compliant, drug trafficking, one of the underlying crimes of racketeering. And I'm curious how they had that whole conversation regarding drugs. Was it just to suggest, she had a drug issue herself that was her own problem? Or was it also to suggest, hey, he had a drug problem and that explains a lot of his behavior, which if I understood it correctly, is interesting because I'm not sure I quite understood where they were going with that. I have an idea of where they were going with that, maybe to explain away some of his actions that they originally said were indefensible. So talk to us about what we know about all the drug use. What was the conversation about that? What was she questioned about?
Yeah, the drug use was also pretty prominent, especially during the afternoon portion. She was questioned, and I feel like the questioning along the lines to your point, Jesse, was trying to paint her out to be kind of this drug-addicted person during the time frame. They were questioning her. Did she use drugs when she was with Diddy? Did she use drugs without Diddy? Did she use drugs when she was with her friends? Oh, do you not remember these questions or these answers because you were addicted to drugs around that time period? And so there was a point where Cassie had said that there was a time that Diddy didn't want Cassie to do drugs, even though she still was, or even though that Diddy still was. The defense says Diddy didn't want you hanging out with a certain friend. The friend's name was Bonna. Bonna is also a pretty important name into this story. I had covered her when she had filed her civil claim against Diddy. Bonna was allegedly hung outside of a balcony by Diddy when he was going through a rage period, something that Cassie had talked about in her direct testimony to yesterday. And the defense was trying to say, well, you and Bonna, you guys did a lot of drugs together, and Cassie at this time was saying, she was doing opioids. Meanwhile, Bonna, according to Cassie, provided these drugs like opioids. Meanwhile, Bonna did cocaine, according to Cassie. Cassie had said that Diddy was pretty explosive when he found out that Cassie was taking his drugs, and Diddy had actually contacted drug dealers not to give drugs to Cassie at this point. The defense was trying to paint it out that Diddy was just worried about her health and that she was taking a lot of drugs including ketamine, GHB, MDMA, ecstasy. They talked about the Cannes Film Festival trip where Diddy had squeezed Cassie's leg so hard that a bruise appeared on her whenever she was taking pictures on red carpets, and he had squeezed her leg so hard, according to Cassie, because she had taken drugs from him. And then there was an interesting point that was talked about is in 2013, where the defense was saying that Diddy overdosed on drugs after a freak off. Diddy was hosting a party at a Playboy mansion. Cassie had to actually take him into the hospital, and that's when Cassie had learned that he had overdosed. There were a lot of points just throughout her testimony today where, again, the defense was trying to ask, do you remember when this happened? And she would respond, I don't necessarily recall. And then the defense would ask, is it because you were on drugs during this period? And she was very forthcoming. I did have a problem. She did try to seek out help a couple of times, and then she just kind of went back to, again, that same kind of lifestyle. But to her point, during her direct testimony, she was saying that she used these drugs to cope with just having to do these hundreds and hundreds of freak offs, some that would last for days at a time, some that could last for a long period of time. But I thought it was interesting, the whole drug conversation today, mainly because they even discussed withdrawing from drugs, especially because of the amount of drugs that both Cassie and both Diddy were taking, and even kind of insinuating that the reason that everything had happened at the 2016 or happened at the Intercontinental Hotel in 2016 was because just a few days earlier than that, Diddy was sick, and they were saying, being the defense, was trying to paint it as Diddy was sick because he was going through withdrawals, and that made him agitated, that made him irritated. Meanwhile, at the same point, they were trying to say Cassie was insinuating doing these freak-offs, kind of making it seem like she was asking for what had happened to her, as far as just him being so aggressive and violent with her, because again, we've all seen that surveillance video, but I definitely think the defense was trying to paint it as Diddy was going through withdrawals at this point, and that's why he became agitated and irritated, and that's why he had attacked her on that day. It's something that, it shocked everyone when we had seen that video. Still shocking seeing it inside that courtroom. They didn't show it today during the cross-examination, but they definitely were talking about the 2016 incident, especially towards the end of the day today.
So again, wow. Interesting how the defense drew upon Cassie's drug use, and the fact that she really needed drugs to perform during these freak-offs, and in doing so, she became addicted to these drugs, and I think she was fully confessing of that. But again, is that making a difference in the case? Is that making because again, Diddy was implicated as being a drug user at that time, using ecstasy, using ketamines, using cocaine, and the like, and in order to do things allegedly through the testimony. And it's it shows that Cassie wasn't right of mind to do that, but I think it plays into what the examination in chief was stating, that Cassie needed these drugs in order to perform during these freak-offs, and that it came to a point where, in order to be a good performer during these freak-offs, she would need these drugs. So it's it doesn't punch a hole. She was out of she's not of a sound mind and body while doing these things. I think if she was doing these drugs, if she didn't need the drugs and did the freak-offs, I think that would be much more effective testimony than if she needed the drugs in order to do these things, if you know what I mean. Because that would paint, Cassie as a person of sound mind and body who was, quote-unquote, nymphomaniac, and was and enjoyed being pleasured in these sort of ways during the freak-offs. But being hopped up on drugs, especially during their freak-offs, and during a lot of their time together, it shows that it was a very dysfunctional relationship indeed. And I don't think this goes well for Diddy's side in this instance. Let's continue.
Yeah, I don't quite buy that one, right? The idea he was going through withdrawal, kind of explains what happened in 2016. Didn't you say in the opening statement that video was indefensible?
And again, yeah, I mean, he was saying that he was on drugs when he was when the beating happened in 2016, which I mean, it's a defense on the part of Diddy, but is it a great defense? Not really. Not really. Let's continue.
Feel like they might have stretched a little bit too much there. But look, the text messages, the conversation. Communications, not ideal for a prosecution case. Not the end of the case, but not ideal for a prosecution case. So it's kind of a mixed bag in terms of how much the cross-examination helped the defense. I will say, I thought it was interesting, real quick on this, Elizabeth. Didn't they say, hey, you know how the prosecution was insinuating?
Back right quick there, ladies and gentlemen, because I thought that was important.
Prosecution case. Not the end of the case, but not ideal for a prosecution case. So it's kind of a mixed bag.
Towards the end of the day today.
Yeah, I don't quite buy that one, right? The idea he was going through withdrawal kind of explains what happened in 2016. Didn't you say in the opening statement that video was indefensible? Feel like they might have stretched a little bit too much there. But look, the text messages, the conversations, communications, not ideal for a prosecution case. Not the end of the case, but not ideal for a prosecution case. So it's kind of a mixed bag in terms of how much the cross-examination helped the defense. I will say, I thought it was interesting, real quick on this, Elizabeth. Didn't they say, hey, you know how the prosecution was insinuating Diddy had all control over every aspect of...
Very good point there, raised there by just Mr. Rev before he gets to his question. Yes, I'm watching ball, Lana, and indeed I am watching ball in a distance. It seems to be very, very good game. So again, I am. We are just coming to the end of things here on Talk Live. But thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live on IG and YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment on the road to 1,000 subscribers. But again, yeah, it was a mixed bag today. Mr. Revers is right in his assessment of things here. That it's. There are things that helped the defense, which include the text messages and showing that there was a loving relationship between the two for a good period of time. But it doesn't help the fact that Diddy was involved in drugs, and Diddy got very jealous when Cassie had affairs, and he did have affairs with Cassie. So it wasn't exactly a loving relationship, and he was a harbinger of that, of the end of the golden age and the loving relationship between the two during the early 2010s. But again, I'll let Mr. Weber continue, and let's finish up the show.
Of her life, including her appearance. While the defense, didn't they seem to suggest, no, there might have been legitimate feedback he was giving, right?
Yeah, definitely. They were trying to paint Diddy kind of talking about his stature within the industry, essentially saying that, Diddy was somebody who had a lot of reign in terms of the culture. A lot of people sought out his advice. A lot of people went to him for fashion advice. So they were trying to make it seem that, Cassie, from her perspective, was saying that Diddy controlled every single aspect and manipulated every single aspect of her entire life. Meanwhile, the defense was trying to say, look, it wasn't just you going to Diddy for fashion advice. It was other people who were interested in taking fashion advice from him because, again, of just how big his stature was at the time. They were saying that he did so much for the culture and that he, started a line like the Sean John line, and that was a very popular fashion line. And so the defense was, again, trying to make it seem that this wasn't manipulation. He didn't control what you wore, but you would ask him, do I look good in this? What do you think of this outfit? And so, yes, to your point, Jesse, the defense was definitely trying to poke those holes into where they needed to poke them to kind of make the argument that this wasn't manipulation, this wasn't coercion, and this was something that two people just do normally in a relationship together.
So that brings us now.
Interesting point raised there by the defense, and the fact that again, I think throughout this cross examination, it was making Cassie into a co-conspirator, and Diddy, not the Svengali, not the all powerful power dynamic on steroids individual that really changed controlled the relationship from top to bottom, forced Cassie into these freak-offs, and made Cassie an active participant, and actually made her into the advice she asked in terms of clothing and this sort of thing. It was made to see that Diddy was indeed just giving his own advice, doing normal things that people do in relationships. So it tried to this cross-examination tried to humanize Diddy in a sense. It tried to make him feel like he was just a loving boyfriend who helped Cassie allegedly realize her dreams of freak-offs, and who allowed her to explore drugs when necessary, and he was disappointed when she had affairs with the likes of Kid Cudi and Michael B. Jordan. So this is a way to humanize Diddy and not make him look like the monster that the prosecution wanted him to look like. Let's continue.
To scheduling, right? So we are not done with the cross-examination. It's going to continue tomorrow, but Judge Arun Subramanian not happy about this, right? So two things I want to end on here. Talk to us about what the whole conversation was in court about actually scheduling Cassandra Ventura's testimony. And I believe we may have an answer as to who is going to be the next witness, who is a major witness in this case. Talk to us about it.
I definitely think so. So during the lunch hour, I was talking about how the defense was saying that they needed an entire day of more cross-examination to a point that they could carry this all the way out into Monday. This was something that the government was visibly annoyed about, because they were like, we had this scheduling talks for weeks, not even just weeks, but months. And they were trying to make the argument, they being the government, that they had known all along that Cassie needed to be off the stand by the end of the week. So they didn't appreciate that the defense was trying to drag this over into Monday. And so they came up with a solution, essentially, and just that they believe that the cross-examination beginning tomorrow will take up half the day, should wrap around the lunch hour. So still a few more hours of cross-examination to go through. As far as the redirect goes, the government affirmed today that the redirect may take no more than about 30 minutes or less. And so it looks like Cassie will finally be off the stand tomorrow if everything goes as planned. You just never know sometimes with the trial how long that these things can go. But yes, another big witness is being teed up kind of as we speak, and the government asked today, do we even need to bring in other witnesses tomorrow being Friday? And the judge was like, yes, get your other witnesses ready. And one of those big witnesses I can definitely say is going to be Dawn Richard, somebody who had filed civil claims against Diddy, somebody who had worked with Diddy for a number of years. She had worked for him for not even a number of years, for decades even, somebody that Diddy himself, when the civil suit was filed, called her a friend and essentially said that he was disappointed that she had even filed this civil claim against him. And so the prosecution said today that she would be one of the next witnesses to be testifying against Diddy. And so it'll be interesting to see kind of how that'll all play out. And so she should be one of the next witnesses. If she's not directly after Cassie, she'll be the following witness for sure.
Yeah, and Elizabeth, I don't know if you have the answer to this. I'm not entirely sure. Is Dawn Richard one of the named alleged victims in this case? I say named. They're all using pseudonyms, except for Cassandra Ventura and maybe one other. Do we know if she's one of the alleged victims in this case that makes up sex trafficking or racketeering or anything like that?
I'm not necessarily sure, and that's mainly because when the prosecution was giving their opening statements, they had talked about the alleged victims, one being Cassie, one being Jane, that we presume to be alleged victim number 2, and then they were even talking about Mia, somebody who had worked for Diddy for a while, somebody that, according to the prosecution, Diddy allegedly sexually assaulted Mia while the two had worked together, because she was somebody on her staff. So I'm I'm not entirely sure if Dawn Richard is one of the victims that have been talked about, especially in the superseding indictment, but I definitely think she'll also be a very key witness in kind of piecing together her decades-long friendship that she had with Diddy, as well as just kind of how he was even just in a business aspect and a professional aspect as well, too.
And I think she was a witness to some of the allegations of Cassandra Ventura. And if I'm right about that, that goes to further corroboration. So it's not just the security guard who testified. It's not just the male performer who testified. Now you'd have Dawn Richard, who I think I'm right? I think she had testified. I think she had alleged before that she witnessed alleged abuse of Cassie at the hands of Sean Combs.
Yep. Yeah, she did. In her civil claim, she alleged that she had seen Cassie with visible injuries on herself. She had said to Cassie that, according to her civil claim, that she had just wanted Cassie to be safe, essentially. She had said that she saw one instance where she was at Diddy's home. Cassie was cooking breakfast and Diddy threw a hot frying pan at her head. And so I definitely think she will be another central figure in kind of verifying Cassie's claims, especially the physical abuse that she endured. Not so much, I believe, about, the freak-offs and that extent, but definitely as far as the physical abuse goes, I think she'll be another key witness to kind of verify Cassie's claims.
And that would make sense she didn't know about it, because what we heard today was Cassandra Ventura was not very open about these freak-offs until she ultimately filed her lawsuit. Elizabeth Milner.
Okay, we're going to end it right there, guys. Come on back. We're going to do a final summation, but actually we're going to leave it here on Talk Live. Back in a bit. Thank you very much for joining me here on Talk Live, ladies and gentlemen, live on IG and YouTube. I think we're within the hour, just above an hour here. We're just going to finish up here. Yeah, just above an hour. And again, we're just going to go to the full cam. I am just going to I'm just going to check out the viewing live archive. Bang, we did that. We go back here. And we're going to go here and into the live and final activities here, ladies and gentlemen, on Talk Live. Thank you very much for joining me here on Talk Live on IG and YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We're going to do a quick summation here, ladies and gentlemen, as the game looks like it's pretty much over there. Denver's pretty much got a hold on this one, and so we're going to have a Game 7. Oh, whoa, we're going to have a Game 7 in that series, as we always thought. I always thought that I would, but again, two great teams, and I think whoever wins this series is going to win the NBA title, to be fair. And Frank, now that Boston is out of it. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's sum up what happened in the Diddy trial today. Cassie Ventura was cross-examined. Cassie Ventura was seen as a co-conspirator and an active participant in these freak-offs. Cassie Ventura had a loving relationship during the first few years with Diddy while she was still in her teens and into her early 20s. And then I think things came undone with Diddy having affairs with various women, and Cassie striking back with her own affairs with the likes of Michael B. Jordan and Kid Cudi, to a point where, indeed, Diddy did not like that. He did not like that at all, and he voiced such concerns to a point where it's alleged that Diddy struck back swiftly and violently against Kitty, letting him know that his presence wasn't welcome in Cassie's life. And again, they had an on and off relationship during the 2010s, and things got tumultuous. But all the while, Cassie still participated in freak-offs during their tumultuous relationship. So that is something to say here, that I think it was a job of and all the while had a drug problem in which Cassie used said drugs in order to not only get through the day, but also to get through these freak-offs, more importantly. Now, I think the things that would help the defense in this case, the fact that Cassie was, through text messages, eager to participate in freak-offs with Diddy, and staging her own, and allegedly staging her own freak-offs herself. But it is what doesn't help the defense is the fact that she had to use drugs in order to get through life, and more importantly through these freak offs to get through the day. And you notice that a lot allegedly with those within the sex industry in order to get through any sort of tough shoots or get through the days as adult entertainers. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is to be fair and frank. Would this be a day in victory of the defense? I think it was a day where holes could be could be punctures in Cassie's examination in chief. Yet, to be fair and frank, I don't think the prosecution did. I think the defense did enough in terms of making Cassie Ventura, the key witness, a discreditable witness, and we are left with the last of the cross-examination tomorrow. Let's see what they do tomorrow in terms of bringing things forward for the defense in terms of Cassie's cross-examination. And remember, she is the star witness in this case. It is through her testimony that this RICO charge is being built around the charge for prostitution. All the charges against Diddy is brought around Cassie's testimony and what she witnessed during her time as a girlfriend of Diddy. So again, we are now left with the cross examination, maybe another re-examination in chief, of the prosecution, just to cover their bases, and cover things up, and that should take up most of the morning, if not early afternoon. And then tomorrow we have a new witness, that is Don Richard, which is who was a staff member and a close friend of Diddy on Bad Boy and on Revolt, and on Bad Boy Records and Revolt, and many of his companies for years. And she witnessed a lot of the abuse that Cassie went through during the relationship. So this is another key witness that is there to corroborate the story of Cassie Ventura in terms of her Diddy, in terms of her time with Sean P. Diddy Combs. So thank you very much for joining me here in Talk Live tonight. I'm just going to watch the end of this match, this game here between Denver and Oklahoma City, although it's pretty much done right now. But again, next week we're going to be back with another few days of testimony from the Diddy trial. So do watch out for that. We're going to be following this throughout. This is a captivating story that is totally captured the attention of the Western world, if not the world at large. And we are going to be following it to its end here on Talk Live. But if there's anything that is upcoming that is of an emergency variety of show that needs to be seen, then we will cut away from the Diddy trial. But we'll be following it to its end. So thank you very much for joining me here on Talk Live on IG and YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We're going to get out of here, and I'm going to go watch this game. So have a good weekend. We'll be back next week with a recap of what happened on Friday and on Monday. Hopefully we'll have I think we should have a show on Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. So watch out for that, and looking forward to seeing you then. And I'm going to get a haircut as well. But I'll talk to you soon. And have a great weekend. And to all my Canadians out there, have a very good long weekend. It's Victoria Day weekend. I'm going to get out there. Lord knows, going to get a shave, get a shoe shine, and cut a rug, if you know what I mean. But anyways, we'll talk soon. And good night from Toronto on IG. And thank you very much for joining me here in Talk Live. This is going to be uploaded right away on YouTube right here. So do look forward to that. We'll be doing more telecasts about the Diddy trial next week. So do look forward to that as well. And thank you very much for joining me. We'll be following this to the end, ladies and gentlemen, unless there are other important stories that may pop up from time to time here on Talk Live. We haven't heard from the Shannon Sharp lawsuit as of yet, so that's gone really quiet. But I'll be looking into that as well. But thank you very much for joining me here on Talk Live, and we're going to get out of here, ladies and gentlemen, watch this